my wife abandoned me. At a train station, then a blind man whispered, "Pretend to be my true story." After a terrible argument, my wife left me stranded at a small train station upstate. No money, no ID, nothing. I was about to start the long 30-mile walk back home, when a blind man sitting on a nearby bench said something that would change my life forever. "Pretend you're my son. My private driver will be here in 5 minutes, and your wife is going to regret leaving you next to the richest businessman in this city." I know it sounds impossible, like one of those made-up stories you read online, but I swear on everything I love, every word you're about to hear is true. My name is Henry. I'm 60 years old, and until that cursed day, I thought I understood what pain was. For 35 years, I was married to Lisa. I worked in a warehouse, getting up before dawn and coming home with calloused hands and a sore back, all so she could have a decent life, all so I could hear her say, "It's not enough." That Saturday morning, everything fell apart. We'd taken a bus upstate to visit one of her cousins. 2 hours of her staring at her phone, smiling at messages she wouldn't show me, typing words she wouldn't share. I stared out the window, pretending not to notice, because sometimes silence hurts less than the truth. When we arrived at a tiny, forgotten train station, she wanted to buy sweets from a nearby shop. I told her I'd wait. My knees just couldn't take it. That's when it began. "Sitting again, Henry?" Her voice was sharp, cutting through the quiet like a whip. "You're always tired. You always have some excuse." I'm sick of it. Sick of living with an old man who has no ambition, no money, and nothing to offer but mediocrity. People started staring. My face burned with shame. "Lisa, please," I whispered. "Let's not do this here." "Here? Then where, Henry? In our miserable house? In that apartment you still haven't finished paying for?" She spat. "Look around. We can't even travel like normal people." Each word hit like a hammer to my chest. I reached for her arm, but she pulled away. "Don't touch me. I don't ever want you to touch me again." The silence that followed was worse than her shouting. She took a deep breath, looked at her phone, then at me, her eyes cold and unrecognizable. "You know what, Henry? It's over. I'm not wasting my life with a failure." She opened her purse, took out my wallet and ID, and dropped them beside me, only to pick them back up again. "Actually, I'll keep these. What would you even need them for here?" "Lisa, what are you doing?" My voice cracked. "I'm leaving you, Henry. Right here, right now. Walk home if you want." "I don't care." She turned, got on the bus, said something to the driver, and it drove away, leaving me standing there with nothing. No money, no ID, no dignity. The sun was brutal. The station was nearly empty except for a few vendors, a mother with 2 kids and an old blind man with dark glasses and a white cane sitting across from me. 30 miles home. 60 years old, broken knees, a shattered heart. I sat down, buried my face in my hands, and for the first time in decades I cried. Not from pain, but from rage, helplessness, and shame. Then I heard a calm voice beside me. "Excuse me, young man," I looked up. The blind man was facing me as if he could see straight through those dark glasses. "Are you talking to me?" I asked, wiping my tears. "Yes," he said softly. "I heard everything, and I'm truly sorry for what just happened. But I think I can help you." "Help me?" I scoffed. "Sir, I don't want to bother you." "No," he said firmly. "You won't be fine. But you could be, if you listen to me. Pretend you're my son. My driver will be here in 5 minutes. Your wife is about to regret leaving you next to the richest man in this city." I stared at him, speechless. Pretend to be your son? The richest businessman? It sounded insane. But there was something in his voice, calm, steady, sincere, that made me pause. "Why would you do that for me?" "You don't even know me," he smiled faintly. "Because I know what it feels like to be alone, abandoned and invisible. My name is Frank Sterling." The name hit me like thunder. Everyone knew Frank Sterling, the owner of the largest food plant in the state with hotels, land, and a fortune worth hundreds of millions. And he was sitting right there beside me. This doesn't make sense. "It makes perfect sense," Frank said gently. "I heard your wife call you Henry. I heard every word she said. And let me tell you, a woman who leaves her husband like that deserves to see what she just threw away." My heart pounded. "But why help me?" Frank sighed. "Because 30 years ago my only son died in an accident. He was about your age, and I've been alone ever since." Before I could respond, a black BMW SUV pulled up. A man in a suit rushed out. Mr. Sterling, sorry for the delay. Don't worry, Stephen. You're right on time. Frank reached for me. Help me up, son. The word froze me for a second, but something inside, maybe pride, maybe spite, pushed me to play along. I took his hand. Stephen, Frank said calmly, this is my son, Henry. Stephen hesitated but quickly nodded. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Henry. I could barely speak. The pleasure's mine. Frank leaned on my arm as we walked to the car. Just as I was about to get in, I heard someone shout my name. Henry, wait. It was Lisa, running toward us, holding a bag of sweets, eyes wide in disbelief. She had seen everything, the car, the driver, the respect. Henry, what's going on? Who is this man? Frank turned his head toward her voice. Excuse me, madam, he said calmly, but I believe you're mistaken. My son doesn't have time to talk to strangers. We have an important family dinner to attend. Your son? Lisa's face twisted with confusion. Henry, what is this? For the first time in 35 years, I felt something I'd never felt before. Power. Lisa, I said quietly, you made it very clear you wanted nothing to do with me. Please don't make this harder. She stammered. I was just angry. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. I cut her off. And that's okay. Because you were right. I do deserve better. Frank squeezed my arm gently. Let's go, son. Your godmother's waiting. Stephen shut the door, and as the SUV pulled away, I looked out the tinted window one last time. Lisa stood frozen in the distance, the bag slipping from her hand, watching us drive off inside the car. The air was cool, soft classical music played, and I sat beside the blind millionaire who had just rewritten my life. Are you okay? Frank asked. I don't even know what just happened. He smiled. You just taught your wife a lesson she'll never forget. She saw that the man she threw away is worth more than she ever imagined. But this, he paused, this is only the beginning. What do you mean? I mean, he said, turning toward me with that mysterious smile. If you truly want to change your life, to make her regret leaving you, stay with me. Be my son. Not just for now, but long enough for everyone to believe it. My mind was a storm of fear, disbelief, and hope. Why would you do this for me? I asked again. For the first time, Frank removed his glasses. His eyes were pale and clouded, but they seemed to look straight into me. Because I'm tired of being alone, Henry. Because my son is gone and I never got to say goodbye. Because I have everything, except someone to share it with. And because something tells me you're a good man who deserves a second chance. Tears filled my eyes again. Not from pain this time, but from something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. I don't know what to say, Mr. Frank, he smiled softly. Say yes. Say you'll trust me, and you'll see how everything changes. I looked out the window, the train station fading in the distance, and then took a deep breath. Yes, I whispered. I trust you. Frank smiled and slipped his glasses back on. Perfect. Then, son, welcome to your new life. The drive to Frank's mansion took about 40 minutes, but to me, it felt like seconds. My mind kept replaying the moment over and over. Lisa's face when she saw me step into that SUV, the confusion in her eyes and the flicker of regret. After 35 years of enduring her contempt, her constant complaints, her way of making me feel small, it had taken only 5 minutes for everything to turn around. The SUV turned off the main road onto a long private lane lined with ancient trees. In the distance stood a vast colonial-style mansion with white walls and a red-tiled roof. There were fountains, gardens stretching for acres, and a wrought iron gate that opened automatically as we approached. Welcome to your new home, Henry, Frank said calmly, as though it were the most ordinary thing in the world. My new home. The words sounded so unreal I almost laughed. But there was no laughter in me, only disbelief and a hint of fear. Stephen stopped the SUV at the grand entrance, quickly got out, and opened our door. I helped Frank out. He leaned on my arm confidently as if we'd been doing this for years. Stephen, Frank said, please let Jane know that the East Wing guest room will be for my son. Use the new sheets, the Egyptian cotton ones. Right away, Mr. Sterling. We entered the house, and my eyes could hardly take in everything around me. The foyer was enormous, with marble floors, a carved wooden staircase, and a crystal chandelier that must have cost more than my entire apartment. Paintings, sculptures, and the scent of fresh flowers filled the air. A woman in her 50s appeared, dressed in a spotless uniform. Her face showed a flash of surprise at seeing me, but she quickly replaced it with a polite smile. "Mr. Sterling, it's lovely to see you. Do you need anything?" "Yes, Jane. I'd like to introduce you to Henry, my son. He'll be living with us from now on." Her eyes widened, but she said nothing, just nodded. "Of course, sir, I'll prepare everything immediately. Will the young man be dining with you?" "Of course. And prepare something special, Jane. Today is an important day for this family." Family. The word hit me harder than I expected. It had been years since that word had felt like anything warm. Jane disappeared, and Frank guided me into a vast living room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. Elegant beige. Sofas, glass tables, a grand stone fireplace. It all looked like something from a magazine. "Sit down, Henry. We need to talk," he said. I sat, still feeling entirely out of place. Frank lowered himself into the opposite chair, resting his cane beside him and taking off his glasses. Though his eyes couldn't see, it felt like he could look straight through me. "I know you have many questions," he began softly, "and you're right to have them. So let me be completely honest." He paused, then continued. 30 years ago, my son Anthony died in a car accident. He was 30, newly married, with his whole life ahead of him. My wife never recovered. She passed away 5 years later, not from illness, but from heartbreak. Since then, I've lived here alone, surrounded by people who only want my money, employees, business partners, but no one who truly cares about me. No one to call me Dad. I stayed quiet, feeling the weight of his words. "When I heard you at the station today," Frank said, "when I heard your wife humiliating you, something inside me broke. I know what loneliness feels like, Henry, and I believe sometimes God brings people together for a reason. I think you're that reason for me." Tears welled in my eyes. "Mr. Frank, I don't know what to say. I'm not your son. I don't deserve this." "Don't ever say that," he interrupted firmly. "You worked your whole life for that woman. You sacrificed everything, and she repaid you with cruelty. If anyone deserves a second chance, it's you." He leaned forward, his voice softening. "I have a proposal. Stay with me. Not as an employee, not as a guest, but as my son. Live here. Learn about my businesses. Let me show you the world you never got to know. All I ask in return is simple. Keep me company. Call me Dad. Make me feel that my life still means something." My heart pounded. "And what about my wife? My old life?" "Your wife made her choice," Frank said firmly. "You can go back anytime you want, but trust me, after a few months here, you won't want to." He extended his hand, old but steady. "What do you say, son? Do you accept?" I looked around the massive room, thought about my tiny apartment, my warehouse job, and Lisa's face as she watched that SUV drive away. Her regret, her confusion. Then I reached out. "I accept, Dad." Frank's face broke into a genuine, joyful smile. "Thank you, son. Thank you for giving my life meaning again." We stayed like that, holding hands. Two lonely men who had just found something they'd lost long ago. Family. Jane appeared again. "Mr. Sterling, dinner is ready and Mr. Henry's room is prepared." "Perfect. Come, Henry, let's have dinner, like a family should." We walked into an enormous dining room with a solid wood table fit for 20, though only 2 places were set. We ate roast chicken, vegetables, and drank fine red wine in silence. Every bite tasted different, as though the food itself knew my life had changed. Then Frank spoke. "Tomorrow, I'm calling my lawyer. We'll begin the process to make you my legal heir. Everything I own, companies, properties, accounts, will be yours one day." I almost choked. "What?" "No, Dad, that's too much. I can't." "You can," he said, "and you will. I'd rather give it to someone who values it than vultures waiting for me to die." I didn't know how to respond. My head spun. "But there's something you must know. Frank continued, his tone serious. Your wife will come back. She'll say she's sorry, that she loves you, that she made a mistake. And when she does, you'll have to decide whether to believe her. I doubt she'll come back, I said. She made her feelings clear. Oh, she will, Frank replied. Because now, you're the son of the richest man in town. And money, Henry. Money changes everything. He was right. 2 days later, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Lisa. Call after call, message after message. I ignored them all until on the third night I finally answered. Henry. Thank God you answered. Where are you? Who was that man? What's happening? Her voice was frantic, so different from the cold woman who left me behind. Lisa, I said calmly, you made it clear on Saturday that you didn't want me. You said I was a failure. I was upset, she pleaded. I didn't mean it. Please, come home. We can fix this. I looked around my new room, larger than our entire flat. A king-sized bed, a private bathroom, a garden view glowing in the moonlight. I'm not coming back, Lisa. What? Henry, this is your home, your life. No, I said quietly. You left me with nothing, and it turned out to be the best thing you ever did for me. She tried again, her tone shifting to something soft, manipulative. Henry, darling, we've been together 35 years. Please tell me where you are. We can talk. No, Lisa. This is over, and soon it'll be official. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce. There was silence, then a broken whisper. Henry, please. But I hung up before she could finish. My hand shook, but I didn't feel pain. I felt free. That night, I slept better than I had in decades. The next morning, Jane knocked on my door. Mr. Frank is waiting for you in the dining room. I dressed in new clothes, tailored perfectly as if someone had taken my measurements overnight. Good morning, Dad, I said as I joined him. Good morning, son. Sleep well? Better than ever. Good, he smiled. We've got an important day ahead. We're visiting my lawyer to start your adoption and inheritance paperwork, and we'll open bank accounts in your name. Breakfast was a feast. Fresh fruit, warm bread, orange juice, eggs. As we ate, Frank told me about his empire, food exports, hotels, real estate, investments. His fortune exceeded $500 million, $500 million. I couldn't even comprehend it. I'd worked all my life for $200 a month. He earned that in minutes. I know it's a lot to take in, Frank said gently. You'll learn with time. Stephen will help. You can trust him completely. After breakfast, we drove into the city to meet his lawyer, Mark Stevens, a sharp man in his 40s. Mr. Sterling, he greeted warmly. And this must be young Henry. That's right, Frank said proudly. He's my son. Let's get everything formalized. Mark explained the adoption process, name change, will, and power of attorney. My head spun with details. Mr. Henry, he asked, are you currently married? Yes, I said, but we're divorcing. Then we'll need that finalized, Mark said. A spouse has legal rights to inheritance until the divorce is complete. Frank frowned. How long will it take? 3 to 6 months if it's amicable, longer if contested. She'll cause problems, I admitted. Frank slammed his cane on the floor. Then hire the best. I don't want that woman seeing a single penny of my fortune. Yes, sir, said Mark. I'll contact Caminas and Associates, they're specialists. We left with a folder full of documents. My mind reeled. Less than a week ago, I was a warehouse worker abandoned by his wife. Now, I was the adopted son of a billionaire. On the way home, Frank turned serious. Henry, your life is about to change completely. People will treat you differently. They'll pretend to be your friends, they'll want to get close, but most will only care about your money. I understand, Dad. He shook his head. Not yet. But you will soon. Because your wife won't be the only one coming back. Relatives you never knew existed will appear too. Frank's words echoed in my mind. Friends who forgot you. People from your past who'll suddenly remember how much they appreciated you. He was right. The moment he said it, I thought of my sister, Claire. We hadn't spoken in 2 years. She'd married a wealthy man, and ever since, She treated me like I was beneath her. At family gatherings, she barely acknowledged me, always flashing her jewelry, bragging about her new house, her holidays, her designer clothes. I have a sister, I said suddenly. Claire, we haven't spoken in a long time. Frank turned his head slightly. Do you think she'll reach out when she finds out about all this? Probably, I said. He nodded. When she does, watch her intentions closely. People show their true colors when money's involved, Henry. And believe me, you're going to learn things about people you thought you knew, things you'd never imagine. We arrived back at the mansion just as the rain began to fall. I went straight up to my room, lay on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. My phone buzzed, a message from Lisa. Henry, please. I need to talk to you. Come home, I miss you. Forgive me, I deleted it without replying. A few minutes later, another message came through, this time from an unknown number. Henry, it's Claire, your sister. I heard you're having a hard time with Lisa. I want you to know I'm here for you. Call me when you can. I stared at the message for a long time. Frank had been right. The rats always find the cheese. I didn't reply, not immediately. I wanted to see how far her sudden concern would go. I didn't have to wait long. The next morning, as I was having breakfast, my phone rang. It was her. Henry, brother. Why haven't you answered me? I've been worried about you. Worried? The word sounded fake coming from her mouth. Claire had never worried about me. Not when I lost my job 5 years ago. Not when Mum died and I had to pay for the funeral alone because she was off holidaying in Europe. And not even when I asked to borrow £2,000 for Lisa's surgery. She told me money was tight that month, while carrying a handbag that cost $5. Hi, Claire, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Fine? Henry, Lisa called me crying. She said you left her, that you went off with some strange man, that you're not answering her calls. What's going on? What's going on? I said coldly. Is that Lisa abandoned me at a train station with no money, no ID, and no plan. And I made the decision not to go back. There was a pause. But Henry, she's your wife. Couples fight, that's normal. You can't just throw everything away over one argument. It wasn't one argument, Claire. It was the last straw after years of humiliation. Well, what about that man you left with? Lisa said you got into a luxury SUV with an old man. Who is he? There it was, and the real reason for her call. She didn't care about my well-being. She wanted to know who Frank was. To confirm the rumors that were probably already spreading around town. He's someone who helped me when I needed it most, I said. That's all you need to know. Henry, I'm your sister. I have a right to know who you're with. What if he's dangerous? What if he's using you? I almost laughed. Her talking about using people. Don't worry about me, Claire. I'm better than ever. So it's true, she said quickly. You're living in the Sterling mansion, aren't you? My God, Henry, how did you manage that? Are you working for him? Are you his employee? And there it was. The same old tone, her default setting. Contempt disguised as concern. To her, I could only ever be someone's employee, never their equal. I'm not his employee, Claire, I said slowly. I'm his son. The silence that followed was heavy. His son? Henry, what are you saying? That doesn't make any sense. It makes perfect sense. Frank Sterling adopted me. I'm his legal heir, and when the paperwork's done, I'll have access to everything he owns. I heard her breathing quicken, trying to process what I just said. Henry, I didn't know. That's incredible. I'm so happy for you, brother. Really? I said, my voice steady. Happy? Like you were when I lost my job? Or when I asked you for help and you said money was tight? Henry, that was years ago. You know we were struggling back then. Sure, I said dryly. Struggling so much you bought a new car the next month. Don't be like that, Henry. We're family. I know I've made mistakes, but now I want to be there for you. I want us to reconnect. At that moment, Frank entered the dining room, guided by his cane. He tilted his head toward me, his expression calm but curious, as if silently asking, "Who's that?" "It's Claire," I said. "I'll call you later." "Wait, Henry. Let's have lunch. Oh, it's been so long since we really talked. I'll think about it. Goodbye." I hung up before she could insist. Frank took his seat with his usual composure. "Your sister?" he asked. "Yes, how did you know?" He smiled faintly. "There's a certain tone people only use when speaking to family. It carries a special kind of weariness." He lifted his cup. "Does she want money?" "She hasn't asked yet," I said, "but she will. Or worse, she'll want to use me to climb the social ladder. Show off that her brother is Frank Sterling's son. Open doors that used to be closed. Frank nodded as Jane set his coffee down. Family can be complicated, Henry. Sometimes the ones you love most are the ones who hurt you the most. I learned that the hard way. What happened? I asked quietly. He took a slow sip before answering. When my son died, I had 3 siblings. 1 older, 2 younger. They came to the funeral. They cried. They swore they'd be there for me. But when they read the will and saw that Anthony was my only heir, and that I no longer had any children, they turned on each other, argued over who'd inherit my money when I was gone. They even sued me, Henry, my own siblings, and trying to force me to divide my fortune while I was still alive. His words chilled me. What did you do? I disinherited them all, he said flatly. Changed my will, made sure none of them would see a single penny. Since then, none of them speak to me. And you know what? I don't miss them, because I finally understood they never loved me. They only loved what I had. Frank reached across the table, his hand searching. I took it. That's why I chose you, Henry, he said softly. Because when I met you, you didn't know who I was. You didn't ask me for anything. You were at your lowest, broken, humiliated. And still, when I offered to help, you hesitated. Because you're not used to taking without giving. That humility, that integrity, that's something money can't buy. His words filled me with something I couldn't name. Gratitude, yes, but also something deeper. For the first time in my life, I felt valued not for what I could give, but for who I was. Thank you, Dad, I said quietly. You don't know what that means to me. I know, son, he said, smiling. That's why I said it. The rest of the day passed in his private office. Frank taught me about his companies, explained contracts, and even introduced me to his partners over video calls. It was overwhelming, but exciting. For the first time, my mind felt alive, used for something more than just loading boxes in a warehouse. That afternoon, Stephen drove me to a high-end boutique downtown. Frank insisted I needed a proper wardrobe for my new position. 3 hours later, I left the shop with 12 suits, 20 shirts, Italian leather shoes, Swiss watches, and a platinum credit card in my name, with a £50,000 monthly limit. 50,000. More than I'd earned in 3 years. When I returned to the mansion, Jane met me at the door, her face tight with concern. Mr. Henry, she said, there's a woman waiting for you in the sitting room. She says she's your wife. My heart stopped. Lisa. I walked into the room, and there she was, dressed immaculately. New dress, flawless makeup, freshly styled hair. But beneath the surface glamour, her eyes betrayed her. Desperation. Henry, she began softly, thank you for seeing me. I know I don't deserve even 5 minutes of your time, but please, hear me out. I didn't move closer. You have 5 minutes, Lisa, talk. Henry, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I was blind, ungrateful. I didn't value you. Everything you did, everything you sacrificed. When I left you at that station, I didn't know what I was doing. I was angry, frustrated. I blamed you for things that weren't your fault. Tears ran down her cheeks. But I'd seen those tears before. Lisa always knew how to cry when it suited her. I still don't hear a real apology, I said. Just excuses. You're right, she said quickly. I'm sorry, Henry, truly sorry. Forgive me. Let's start over. We can be happy again, like before. Like before? I repeated. Lisa, we were never happy. Not for the last 10 years. You always wanted more. You always complained. You always made me feel like I wasn't enough. But now things are different, she said eagerly. Now you have this incredible opportunity with Mr. Sterling. We can live well. We can travel. We can have everything we ever dreamed of. And there it was, and the truth behind her tears. She didn't want me. She wanted the money. Get out of this house, Lisa. What? No, Henry, please. I said get out. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce. Sign the papers quietly and this will end quickly. If you fight, I promise you won't win. Lisa's face twisted between shock and fury. So this is how you repay me, Henry? After 35 years together, you throw me out like rubbish? No, Lisa, I said evenly. You threw me out. I'm just accepting your decision. She stood, trembling with rage. This isn't over, Henry. I'm your legal wife. I have rights. I'll fight for what I'm owed. Fight all you want, I said quietly. You won't win. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I stood there in the middle of that grand, silent room, and for the first time in decades I felt free. The days that followed were strange, a mix of calm and tension. Every morning, Frank and I would sit in his office. He'd explain his businesses, introduce me to investors, and show me how his empire was built. My life had changed completely, and the world was starting to take notice. I absorbed everything like a sponge. For the first time in my life, I discovered a talent for numbers and strategy, skills I never had the chance to develop while loading boxes in a warehouse. But nights were different. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Lisa, Claire, unknown numbers. Everyone suddenly wanted something from me. Everyone had discovered that Henry, the failure, the warehouse worker, was now the adopted son of the richest man in the city. A week after Lisa's visit to the mansion, I received a legal summons. She'd hired lawyers and was suing me for alimony, division of assets, and compensation for emotional distress. She wanted $50,000 a month, and half of any property I'd acquired during our marriage, including, her lawyers claimed, any future inheritance from Frank. When Mark, Frank's lawyer, read the documents, he almost laughed. "This has no legal basis," he said. "She abandoned you. There are witnesses, and any inheritance from Mr. Sterling comes after the separation. She has no right to anything. Then why is she trying?" I asked. "Because she's desperate," Mark replied. "And her lawyers probably told her you might settle to avoid a long trial. It's a pressure tactic." Frank, who was sitting beside me, slammed his cane on the floor. "We are not settling for 1 cent, he said sharply. "Mark, I want you to counterattack with everything. That woman needs to understand she made the worst mistake of her life." "Understood, Mr. Sterling." Mark nodded. "I'll file for divorce based on abandonment. We'll present witness statements from the train station, and I'll make sure she gets absolutely nothing." We left the office with a clear plan, but I couldn't shake the unease in my chest. 35 years of marriage ending in a courtroom battle. It wasn't how I imagined things would end. "I know what you're thinking," Frank said during the drive back. "You're thinking this is cruel, that maybe you should give her something to end this quickly without conflict." "How do you know that?" I asked. "Because you're a good man, Henry, and good men hesitate when they have to be tough. But let me tell you something I learned long ago. Kindness doesn't mean being a fool. She abandoned you. She humiliated you. She made it clear you were worthless to her. And now that you're worth something, she wants to crawl back. Does that really deserve compassion?" "I don't know, Dad." "It's complicated." "It's not complicated," he said firmly. "It's simple." She made her choice. Now she must live with the consequences. That night, Claire showed up at the mansion unannounced. She didn't call or ask permission. She just arrived, and Stephen let her in after checking with me. I received her in the same sitting room where Lisa had been days before. Claire walked in with her usual confidence, her sharp eyes scanning the room, mentally calculating the worth of every painting. "Every lamp, every piece of furniture, Henry. This is incredible," she said with an admiring smile. "This house is a palace." "Hello, Claire," I replied evenly. "To what do I owe your visit?" "Do I need a reason to visit my brother?" she said innocently. "It's been so long. I wanted to see how you're doing." She sat down without being invited, crossing her legs with rehearsed elegance. "I'm fine. Better than ever," I said. "I can see that," she nodded. "I still can't believe all this. How did it happen?" "How did you meet Mr. Sterling?" I told her an edited version of the story, the argument, the abandonment, the meeting with Frank, leaving out the most painful parts. She listened, nodding, but I could see her mind working behind that polite smile. "It's like a fairy tale, Henry," she said sweetly. "I'm so happy for you. And I've been thinking, now that things have changed for you, maybe we could help each other." There it was, the real reason for her visit. Help each other? How? "Well," she began hesitantly, "Greg's company has been going through a rough patch and we've got some financial commitments." "You want money, Claire?" I interrupted. She blinked, pretending to be shocked. "It's not that I want money. I just thought families should support each other. Remember when Dad died? I helped with the funeral costs." "You mean when you lent me $2,000 that I repaid in 6 months?" I reminded her. "And before that, when I needed help, you told me you couldn't." "That was different," she said, her voice tightening. "Different how?" "'Cause back then you couldn't be bothered. But now that I can help, you expect me to say yes without hesitation?" Her mask began to crack. "I didn't expect you to be like this, Henry. We're family. Family is supposed to help each other." "You're right," I said quietly. "But when I needed help, my family wasn't there." Now that I have something, you show up with your hand out. I've simply learned who really loves me and who just loves my money." She shot to her feet, face red with fury. "You've changed. You've become one of those arrogant rich people who look down on their family." "I don't despise family," I said calmly. "I just stopped letting them use me." "You'll regret this, Henry," she hissed. "Lisa told me how you threw her out of this house. She's right, you're not the man you used to be." "Good," I said, "because that man was a fool." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Moments later, Frank appeared at the doorway, guided by the sound of my uneven breathing. "I heard everything," he said. "I'm sorry. Dad, I didn't want you to see that." "Don't apologize," he said softly. "I told you this would happen. Money reveals true faces. Does it hurt?" "A lot," I whispered. "She's my sister, Dad. We grew up together." "I know. But sometimes the people we've known all our lives are the ones we know least. She never valued you, Henry. Now that she can't use you, she attacks you. It's easier for her to blame you than to face her own failures. She said she'll testify for Lisa in court." "Let her," Frank said coolly. "Mark will tear her lies apart. The truth is on your side, and in the end, truth always wins." That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake thinking about Lisa, about Claire, about how quickly my life had fallen apart again. But I also thought about Frank, how a stranger had shown me more loyalty in 2 weeks than my own family had in decades. At 3 a.m., I went to the kitchen for a glass of water. Frank was already there, sitting in the dark with a cup of tea. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "No," I said, sitting across from him. "I can't stop thinking about everything that's happening." "It's normal," he said. "You're losing the people you thought were your family. It hurts even when they don't deserve your tears. How did you get over it when your siblings betrayed you?" I asked. He took a sip before answering. "I realized that family isn't just blood, Henry. Family is loyalty. It's love. It's being there when you're needed most. Sometimes the real family is the one you choose, not the one you're born with." He turned his blind eyes towards me, eyes that somehow still saw everything. "That's why I chose you," he said, "and that's why I'll protect you even from your own sister." "Thank you, Dad," I said softly. "Don't thank me. That's what real family does." We sat there in silence, two men who had found in each other what the world had denied them, a home. But I didn't know then that Claire's betrayal was only the beginning. 2 weeks later, Mark called, his voice tight with worry. "Henry, I need you to come to my office. It's urgent." When Frank and I arrived, Mark had a folder of documents waiting on his desk. "Bad news," he said grimly. "Lisa isn't just suing for divorce anymore. She's now claiming you committed marriage fraud and abandonment. She's accusing you of taking all the savings and living in luxury while she can barely eat." "What? That's a lie," I said. "I know," Mark nodded, "but she has witnesses. Your sister Claire has filed a sworn statement saying you were a negligent husband, that you emotionally abused Lisa, and that you manipulated Mr. Sterling into adopting you for his money." It felt like ice water pouring over me. "She said that?" I whispered. "There's more," Mark continued. "Lisa's hired a private investigator. They're questioning the legitimacy of the adoption itself, saying you took advantage of Frank's blindness and loneliness." Frank slammed his cane on the floor, the sound echoing through the room. "That's absurd," he thundered. "I am fully in control of my mind. No one manipulated me." "I know, Mr. Sterling," Mark said, "but they're building a case. And they've even contacted your former employees, looking for statements that might paint Henry in a bad light." My world was collapsing again. Not from heartbreak this time, but from betrayal. "What can we do?" I asked weakly. "We fight," Mark said. "We've got truth on our side, but it's going to get ugly. They'll attack your reputation, your name. They'll use your own family to do it." Frank reached across the desk and gripped my hand. "Then we fight," he said firmly. "Mark, hire the best lawyers in the country. Countersue for defamation, slander, everything. And investigate Lisa and Claire. If they're lying, there'll be proof." Days later, the scandal hit the local newspapers. The Sterling adoption scandal. There were photos of me leaving the mansion, headlines about manipulation and greed. Anonymous sources claimed I'd planned everything from the start. Then Claire gave a radio interview. "My brother Henry was always ambitious," she said, "but he never had the talent to succeed. When he met Mr. Sterling, he saw an opportunity and took advantage of an old, vulnerable man." Her words felt like knives. This was my sister, the girl I'd grown up with who'd promised we'd always stick together. Turn it off, I said quietly, my voice breaking. Stephen switched off the radio. Frank squeezed my hand. Don't listen to her, son. They're the lies of desperate people. But what if everyone believes her? What if they all think I'm a con artist? Let them think what they want, Frank said. We know the truth. That's all that matters, but things only got worse. A week later, I received a court order, a restraining order. Lisa claimed I'd threatened her and that she feared for her safety. She also filed charges of emotional and financial abuse. This is insane, I said when Mark told me. I never touched her, never threatened her. I know, he said. But she has witnesses. Claire says you threatened her when she came to visit, and she claims she recorded it on her phone. I froze. When she stormed out of the house, she had her phone out. I thought she was calling someone, but she was recording. They can manipulate a video, Frank said calmly. Edit it, twist it. But Mark, do we have recordings of our own? Mark frowned. Recordings? Frank smiled, that knowing smile of his. Remember what I asked you the day Henry moved in? To install security cameras around the entire property, including the sitting room and the entrances. My heart began to race. Dad, are you saying we've got everything recorded? Lisa's visit, Claire's visit, all of it? Mark blinked. If that's true, that changes everything. We can prove they're lying. Exactly, Frank said, but we won't show our cards yet. Let them keep lying. When they're in too deep, we'll destroy them with the truth. It was a risky plan, but Frank had survived half a century in business. He knew how to play the game. 3 weeks later came the preliminary hearing. Lisa sat across from me, dressed like a grieving widow in a plain dress and no makeup, trying to look fragile. Claire was beside her, stone-faced. The judge listened to both sides for hours. Lisa cried at just the right moments. Claire glared at me with hatred. Then Mark stood up, calm and composed. Your Honor, he said, the defense has irrefutable evidence disproving every accusation. We have audio and video recordings of the visits made by both Mrs. Lisa and Miss Claire to Mr. Sterling's residence. These clearly show there were no threats, no violence, and in fact that they acted aggressively. Lisa's face drained of color. Claire froze in her chair, recordings. The judge asked, why weren't these presented earlier? Because we wanted the accusing party to first submit their sworn statements, Your Honor, Mark said smoothly, so we could prove beyond doubt that they were lying under oath. The judge turned to Lisa's side. Is this true? Are there recordings of your visits? Lisa's lawyer, her cousin, had stammered nervously. If such recordings exist, Your Honor, they were made without consent, which violates nothing, Mark cut in. The property has clear notices of video surveillance. It's perfectly legal. The courtroom fell silent. I want to see those recordings, the judge said finally. Both parties, my chambers, tomorrow morning at 9. This hearing is adjourned. As we left the courtroom, Lisa tried to approach me. Henry, please, we need to talk. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Stephen stepped between us, Frank's voice cut through the air like ice. Don't go near my son. You've done enough damage. Claire appeared behind Lisa, her face pale and trembling. Henry, please. You have to understand. Lisa convinced me. She told me you'd threatened her. You lied under oath, Claire, I interrupted coldly. Not only did you betray me as a sister, you committed a crime. No. I can explain, but it was too late. Frank and I were already getting into the SUV. Stephen started the engine and drove off, leaving them behind. Frank reached over, his old, steady hand resting on mine. Tomorrow this all ends, son, he said softly. Tomorrow they'll see who the real victims are. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Hope. The next morning, we arrived at the judge's office at 8:45. Mark carried the tablet, every recording perfectly organized. Frank stood beside me, calm as ever, the kind of calm that only comes when you know you have the truth on your side. Lisa and Claire showed up 15 minutes later with their lawyers. They both looked exhausted, eyes sunken, faces pale. Guilt and sleepless nights had left their mark. Inside the judge's chambers, the air felt heavy. Shelves lined with legal books loomed behind a massive oak desk. Mr. Stevens, the judge began, please show me those recordings. Mark connected the tablet to the screen. The first video played, the day Lisa came to the mansion. The image was crystal clear, the audio sharp. We watched as she walked into the sitting room, fake tears glistening under the light. Her tone changed when I told her I wouldn't return to her, and at the end, her mask slipped completely. "This isn't over, Henry. I'm your wife. I have rights, and I'll fight for what I'm owed." Her own words condemned her. There were no threats from me, no violence, just a woman furious that her plan had failed. Then came Claire's recording. Her visit from start to finish, admiring every piece of furniture, circling like a vulture, until she finally asked for money, not directly, but clearly. And when I refused, she exploded. "You'll regret this, Henry. Lisa asked me to testify for her, and I think I will." The judge paused the video, his eyes sharp. "Miss Claire, did you threaten to give false testimony?" Claire's voice trembled. I was angry. "I didn't mean it. But you did sign a sworn affidavit claiming your brother was violent and negligent, correct?" "Yes, but is there any recording where Mr. Henry displays violence or threats?" Mark shook his head. "None, Your Honor. In every video, he remains calm and respectful even when provoked." The judge leaned back, eyes narrowing at Lisa and Claire. "Mrs. Lisa, Miss Claire, you have both lied under oath. That's perjury, and it's a serious crime." Their lawyers tried to interject, but the judge silenced them. "I've heard enough. The defendant is cleared of all accusations. The plaintiff's claims are dismissed. No alimony, no compensation." Lisa broke down, this time for real. "No, please. I have nothing. No money, no job." "You should have thought of that," the judge said sternly, "before you tried to destroy an innocent man." Outside the courtroom, Claire ran after me. "Henry, please!" "Don't let them prosecute me. I have children. I'll lose everything." I looked into her eyes, the same eyes that once looked down on me when I was poor, that gleamed with greed when I became rich. Now they were filled with tears. "You should have thought about your children before you betrayed me. Claire, before you lied under oath. Lisa convinced me. She said you'd changed, that you'd become dangerous." "Liar," I said flatly. "You wanted money. You wanted me to fall so you could rise." Frank touched my arm gently. "Let's go, son. They don't deserve another second of your time." As we walked away, I could still hear their sobs echoing in the hallway. In the car, Frank turned to me. "How do you feel?" "I don't know. I should feel victorious, but I just feel empty." "That's normal," he said. "You've just seen the true faces of people you loved. It hurts even when justice is served." "Do you think I was too harsh on Claire?" "No," Frank replied firmly. "You were fair. She made her choices. Now she must face the consequences." Back at the mansion, rain began to fall. Jane greeted us with towels and tea. Frank went upstairs to rest, but I stayed by the window, watching the rain trace lines down the glass. Then my phone rang. An unknown number. It was Greg, Claire's husband. "Henry, please. Claire is broken. The kids are crying. Drop the charges, I beg you." "Greg," she lied under oath. "She helped Lisa try to ruin me." "I know, but think of your nephews. They'll lose their mother. Please, she'll do anything, just don't send her to prison." His words hit me hard. I thought of Manuel, 7 years old, and little Gilda, just 5. Innocent children who didn't deserve this. "Let me think about it," I said quietly. That night, I went to Frank's study. He was listening to classical music. "Dad," I said, "I need your advice, and tell me, son." I told him everything. When I finished, he looked at me thoughtfully. "Henry, justice and revenge are not the same. Justice gives people what they deserve. Revenge just spreads the pain. Claire deserves consequences, but what kind of man do you want to be?" I didn't sleep that night, but when dawn came, I knew my answer. The next morning, I called Mark. "I want to drop the charges against Claire and with conditions." "Conditions?" "She must publicly retract her lies, apologize in the same media she used to defame me, and sign a document promising never to contact me again." "And Lisa?" "With her," I said coldly, "we move forward. Let her face every consequence." 2 days later, Claire appeared on the radio, her voice trembling. "I lied about my brother Henry. I said terrible things that weren't true. I did it out of greed and envy. Henry is a good man. I don't deserve his forgiveness, but I ask for it." I listened quietly as Jane prepared lunch. She glanced at me. "Feeling better, Mr. Henry?" "Not better," I said softly, but at peace, and it was true. For the first time in weeks, I felt peace. 6 months later, my life was completely different. The divorce was final. Lisa received nothing, only probation and a fine she could never pay. Last I heard, she was working as a cashier, living in a small flat. Claire kept her word. She retracted, apologized, and vanished from my life. Frank and I became inseparable. Breakfasts, business meetings, dinners. We lived like the family we chose to be. When the adoption was finalized, the judge handed me my new birth certificate, Henry Sterling. Tears filled my eyes. Frank was crying too. "Now you're officially my son," he said. "You've always been my father," I whispered. One evening, as the sun set, Frank confessed something. "Henry, there's something I never told you. I wasn't at that station by chance. Someone told me about a man left behind, broken. Jane told me." I froze. "Jane?" "She heard from a vendor who saw what Lisa did to you. Something in the story. It made me want to go. Maybe it was fate." Tears welled up again. "All this time, you knew." "I knew someone needed help," he said gently. "I didn't know that person would become the son I never had. 2 years later, I'm the CEO of Sterling Enterprises. Frank retired 6 months ago, though he still visits twice a week, just to make sure I don't ruin his legacy. I never saw Lisa again. Claire sends me a Christmas card every year. I never open it. Some bridges once burned should stay that way. A month ago, I visited that same train station. I sat on the same bench, the one where my old life ended and my real one began. A young couple nearby was arguing. The woman called the man worthless. He looked just like I once did, defeated. I walked over and handed him my business card. "If you ever need help," I said, "call me." When I returned to the car, Frank smiled. "Did you do a good deed today?" "I tried," I said. "If he calls, I'll help him, just like you helped me." "That's how you build a legacy, son," he said. "Not with money, with compassion." That day at the station, I thought my life was over. But it was just beginning. I lost a wife who never valued me, a sister who never respected me. But I gained a father who truly loved me, and the dignity I had always deserved. Sometimes the worst betrayals are blessings in disguise. Sometimes losing everything is what finally sets you free. Today I am Henry Sterling, son, businessman, and a man at peace. And it all began the day a blind man whispered to me, "Pretend you're my son." Like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you.